American poet Walt Whitman was born on May 31st, 1819, in West Hills, Long Island, to Walter Whitman Sr. and Louisa Van Velser Whitman. He was the second of their 9 children. At the age of 4, Whitman's family moved from West Hills to Brooklyn. They lived in many homes, but he kept moving due to poor living conditions. Whitman uses his poor financial status growing up to influence his poems in later life.
At the age of 12, Whitman dropped out of school to become a printer's apprentice. In 1836, in his late teens, Whitman was a teacher for 5 years until he quit to become a full-time journalist. In 1848, Whitman became the editor of the New Orleans Crescent. While living in New Orleans, he witnessed the extremity of the slave trade. In 1855, Whitman published his first edition of poems in The Leaves of Grass. Leaves of Grass was very controversial and influential to the time because of its free verse form and because it was seen as pompous by other poets. The Civil War started in the 1860s, and Walt Whitman worked in the hospitals to help with the wounded. Then in 1862, Whitman traveled to Washington, D.C. to take care of his brother who had been wounded in the war. Whitman then stayed in Washington for 11 years.
In 1873, Whitman was visiting his family and had a stroke. Whitman was forced to live with his family until 1882, when he could afford his own house. After Whitman revised Leaves of Grass and published his final volume of poetry. Then, in 1891, Whitman contracted a lung infection. On March 6, 1892, Walt Whitman died. He was then buried in a tomb he designed in Camden. Whitman is known as the father of free verse and is one of the most influential poets of his time period.